Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be replacing the front brake pads and rotors on this vehicle. So we're going to go from this to this, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. So let's get right into it. What we're going to be doing is the front and rear brakes and rotors. I have a confession to make. I said I was going to make a video on me trying to install these tints on the car. As you guys can tell, they're on the car. I tried to make a video. I started with the front windshield, trying to get that tint on, and it did not work out. Ruined the film completely. So I just had a friend of mine do the tinting for me. I just took the car to him, had him do the tints on it. It looks really good. Got 50% on the windshield here. You can tell it's pretty dark. Then I have a 5% strip over the top. So the driver's side and the passenger side are 15. The rears, we threw a 20% film on top of the factory tinted glass. Basically makes it like 5% or less, so it's very dark. So you cannot see inside the car at all. So I apologize that I did not make that video for you guys to watch, but it was literally me just struggling the whole time, and I didn't want to ruin the rest of the film that I bought, so I just had someone else do it for me. But apart from that, let's go ahead and do the brakes on this car today. I'm probably going to make two videos. I'm going to do one video here for the front brake pads and rotors, and then I'm going to make a separate video for the rear because I also want to adjust the parking brake on it. So I kind of want to take my time on the rear and make another video on that. Begin by taking off this wheel, so let's jack up the car. Grab a 21mm socket for these nuts here, go ahead and zap them off, and then get this tire off right here. Next, we're going to go ahead and work on getting the pads out of here and get this caliper off, and then get this rotor off next as well. To make it easier to record and to get to these bolts, I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel all the way to the right. So before we get this caliper off, let's go ahead and get these pads out and compress those pistons inside. So we're going to go ahead and get these slide pins out here. Then we're going to go ahead and get like a pry bar or a flathead, and we're going to press up against the rotor and the pads, so that way we can compress those pistons on each side, and then we're going to pop these guys out. So let's start off by getting this guy out. So there's one. Put these somewhere safe in case you have to reuse these if your kit does not come with new ones. Get this one off as well down here. There we go. Sometimes these are loose enough you can just pop them out with your fingers like that. Other times you might have to get a punch and then just try to punch through it and then get them out. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth until you get it out. So there's the pin. We also want to get the spring out as well, so just compress it towards yourself like that on both sides. They'll come right out. Let's get this one off as well. Now these fronts are actually in really good shape. It even looks like this caliper was probably replaced at some point because it's very clean. There's a ton of pad left on each side here. The fronts did not need to be done on this car. I'm doing it just because I want to, because I'm doing the fronts and the rears same time, rotors and everything. So I want to make sure it's all taken care of. That way I have peace of mind that it's in good shape. So let's go ahead and grab either a crowbar or a flathead. Let's compress these pistons and let's get these things out. The way I'm about to do this, I don't recommend it for everybody. If you are gonna be reusing your rotor here, then do not push up against the rotor. You're gonna damage it or score it. It's gonna cause problems when you put new pads on. I'm replacing my rotor, so I could care less if this thing gets scored or damaged. So this is the way I'm doing it. All right, let's get up inside. You wanna try to get it right in the middle so that way you can just compress it, just like that. It will also work on this side too. Now that we got that taken care of, these will just slide right out. So lots of life left on this pad, as you guys can tell. They do look like they have even wear on them, which is pretty good. Let's get this caliper off next. So before I get the bolts on the back of this caliper, I'm gonna go ahead and get the ones up here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So there's gonna be a 12mm bolt right here and a 10mm bolt right here. This is the way that I prefer to do it, so you can get both of these bolts out. It's gonna loosen this line, and then it has more slack to move the caliper up and down without bending any of the hard lines here. So let's get those out. So there's the 12. And there's the 10. All this kind of loosens up right here, and then you can actually move this around a little bit more. There's also gonna be a clip right here on the back side of this bracket. So I would recommend taking that clip off too, just to separate the two lines. So that way this one moves on its own more freely. You can just grab some pliers, pinch it together, and then push it through. There we go. So there, now we have these two lines completely separated. Now we can get behind this caliper. I think this is, it's either an 18 or a 17. Let me see which one fits. So it's a 17 millimeter for the brake caliper bolts. Let me reposition the camera really quick to show you what I'm doing on the back side here, and then we're gonna get the caliper off. So we're on the back side of the caliper now. There's two bolts we need to remove. They're both 17 millimeter bolts. There's gonna be one right here, and then one right here. So go ahead and get those two out, and then this caliper should come off. This is where you gotta be careful. You gotta take it off and then hang it somewhere where it's not gonna put stress on this hard line. All right, there's one. So you got it loose, grab some sort of a hook or something that you can use to kind of hang the caliper up, maybe on the strut or something. Take this off, be careful about the hard line, and just get this hanging somewhere in the meantime. There we go. Let's get back to the front side here. Let's get this rotor off. So in theory, this thing should just break free, should be ready to come right off. So let's see if we can get it to slide off. I'm gonna grab a rubber mallet. Before I have this thing fly off and hit me in the knee or something, I'm gonna throw a lug nut or two on here, get a rubber mallet, and just kind of go to town on it. I could actually try to get a crowbar from the back here. There we go. I'm gonna grab a wire brush and just go ahead and start brushing everything here, all the rust, all the debris that's over here. Try to make this as smooth as possible for the new rotor to get installed onto. Just going to spray some brake clean here. Really clean this up as much as you can. Get it ready to go. So I got some new gloves on. Let's get this rotor outside of this bag. Doesn't really feel like there's any coating or oil on here, but just to be safe, I'm gonna run some brake clean through here, wipe it all off just to make sure on both sides, and then we're gonna get it installed. So this is nice and clean, ready to get put on. Before we do put it on, for those wondering what kind of brakes and rotors I went with, this is the brand, it's Power Stop. Here, let me turn off this light so you can see a little bit better. But these are the Power Stop Extreme Z36, so front and rear. So I purchased the entire kit of rotors and pads for this 4Runner. Keep in mind, some 4Runners, such as mine, they have bigger rotors in the front than they do in the back. So if you are going with this kit, make sure you're ordering the right one with the proper sized rotors. Otherwise, they're not gonna fit. You're gonna have to return it. It's gonna be a whole ordeal for you. I will link this kit in the bottom of the description. I bought it on Amazon. That's where I found it to be the cheapest price. Before we get the rotor on, we're gonna go ahead and spray some of this fluid film on there. This is basically a rust and corrosion protection. So this is gonna go right here. This will make it easier to take this rotor off in the future if I have to. So with that sprayed on, we can go ahead and get the rotor on there now. So once you get this rotor on, just double check your gaps here between this backing plate and the rotor itself. Make sure that's not going to be rubbing anywhere or making any noise. It looks good to me, so we're going to keep it like that. Turn this light off so there's not so much glare. Now that this rotor is on, let's go ahead and get this caliper on. We're gonna get it torqued down, and then we're gonna clean up the inside and prep the inside for the pads as well. Grab the caliper here, let's get it off the hook, put it right onto this rotor. Hand thread it on, make sure you're not cross threading anything. Then lightly zap these guys on and then torque it down to spec. So the torque spec for these bolts right here are gonna be 91 foot-pounds. So that's what I have this set to. So let's get it torqued down. So let's go ahead and get these bolts in as well here. We'll start off by getting the clip back into its location onto this bracket. Then we'll get these two guys together, get that 10 millimeter bolt inside. Just gonna hand thread it on here for now. Then we got the 12 mil that goes right here. All right, as far as these bolts go, I don't think they're that critical to have the proper torque spec for them. And honestly, I don't even know what the torque spec is for it. So I'm just gonna get them nice and tight by hand and then call it a day there. Next, we're gonna go ahead and get the caliper prepped for the brake pads. So we're gonna clean it up a little bit, put some grease on it, put the pads in, then we're almost done. So as far as getting this prepped up, what I'm gonna do is grab this wire brush. It'll fit perfectly inside. I'm gonna go ahead and get this part all cleaned up. Same thing up top right here on both sides. So get this nice and cleaned up. You could do this with the caliper off, but I prefer to have it on. It basically holds it for you and just sit here and clean it up. Then just grab a rag, spray some brake clean on there. Now just go ahead and clean up the pistons here. So all 4 of them. So in the box here, let's see what we got going on. So we got some grease, we're gonna need that. That's actually gonna be the next step here. We got you some new slide pins, some new springs, and actual pads themselves right here. Get 2 of these out. So you're gonna get the one that has the wear indicator on it, and then one that does not have a wear indicator on it. And try not to touch the actual pads. So we're gonna need one of these guys right here, and then one with the wear indicator. And we have the other one right here that we're gonna need. Now this one is gonna go onto the inside of the caliper, so the one that's basically closer to the inside of the vehicle. And then the other one right here is gonna go towards the outside of the caliper. What we wanna do next is open up the little packet of grease that came with the pads. So we're gonna get some of this grease and just put it onto this brush here. Now those areas that we cleaned off, so basically up here, down here, and then the faces here of the pistons, that's all gonna need some grease. So go ahead and just start applying some grease there. If you got any grease on the actual rotor, just be sure to wipe that off. So grab the pad here, put some grease on the edges here where it's going to be riding in the caliper on each side, and then you could put a little bit on the backing plate as well. Now in this kit, they don't really give you enough grease, so I'm going to go ahead and use the entire packet here just on this one side. I'm going to use the other packet on the other side, and then I have my own grease that I'm going to use for the rears. It should look something like this. You have grease on each side, like so, and then on the back, and then also have the inside greased up there. So this is the brake pad that has the wear indicator right here. So the wear indicator is going to go onto the inside. So you want to go ahead and just shove it in just like that. So just kind of get the pad and just get it to slide right inside. Now let's do the same thing to this one. This is going to be the one that does not have a wear indicator on it. Get some grease on the edge here on both sides. You don't have to do the entire backing if you don't want to. You just have to do it where the piston is going to be touching it. Just get the pad and just slide it right in here. You got the pads in there. You do need to get some more grease onto the slide pins here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I got some grease onto the first one. You can slide that in through the pads, and then put some grease on the other pin as well. Now one thing I want to do, so these brakes, they really only come with one of these springs for the pads to separate them. Some people call them the anti-rattle springs. Since my kit came with another set, I'm actually going to reuse the old one and then use it for the top and then use the other one for the bottom. It's just going to be, you don't have to do that, but I want to, I prefer to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. See where that hole is? You kind of slide it into the pin here and then slide the other one on the other side. Kind of like that. Then you'll see this little portion right here. This part just goes into the holes on the sides. So I got the new one down here, got the old one up there. Now just don't forget to put in the little pins on the sides so this doesn't come sliding out. Okay, there's one. All right, and there's 2. Let's go ahead and get the wheel on, torque it down, and we're gonna get to the passenger side. All right, as far as the torque spec for this, online it shows a bunch of different values. I'm just gonna run 85 foot-pounds on all of them, call it a day. All right guys, it's as simple as that. I'm all done here on the driver's side. So I'm gonna do the same exact thing now, but on the passenger side. Just gonna run through it real fast. So let's get that knocked out. Alright guys, so that is the front brakes and rotors all finished up here. Just finished up the passenger side over there. I'm going to make a separate video for the rear brakes and rotors, so keep an eye out for that. Should be the next video coming up here. If this was helpful for you guys, hit that like button, subscribe for more content. Let me know in the comments what other kind of videos you guys would like to see with this 4Runner. Now, if you guys are just doing the fronts too and you're not interested in doing the rears, if you're about to drive this car, pump the brakes a bunch of times, really get those pistons to extend and start gripping with the pads. Otherwise, you're gonna have no brakes for the first few pumps. So definitely do that. Also, there is a brake-in procedure for these brakes. I'm gonna show you how to do that in my next video once I finish up the rear. But just to kind of show you guys what that procedure is, it's right here. So according to Power Stop, this is the procedure you guys got to follow to break in the brake pads. When I finish up the rear brakes, I will show you guys me trying to break them in doing this. So that's going to be it for the front brake video today. Keep an eye out for that rear brake video that's coming out next. I'll go ahead and show you how to break them in properly according to Power Stop there. Then I'll just do like a first impressions of me driving with the brakes, see if I feel any difference and how I like it. But again, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out.